Hey, glad you found us over here in this little corner. This is called office hours, which is kind of like a throwback to your college days when your professor had open office hours. You knew that you were able to swing by, have a chat, talk things over, ask questions. Well, Arbor knows that we are not able to hang out with you in person much, so we decided to do virtual office hours, where you can swing by the pastor's office for a conversation and talk over things that are on your mind. So today you found yourself at the care pastor's neck of the woods, and this is my office. So if you were here with me in person, I would definitely be checking in with you, see how you were holding up. We're on day 205 of the stay home, stay safe orders here in Washington State. And I would want to check in and ask, how are things going for you? If you're like a lot of people, you probably would say there are some really hard days and you miss your old normal. And if you're like a lot of people, I would say it sounds like you're in a period of grief, which is not usually a word most people associate with a pandemic unless they've technically lost somebody. But grief feelings can happen even when you lose something that's important to you, like your old life, right? You've lost a lot of your old routines. A lot of you have changed your work styles and your school styles, and you miss your old normal, which is completely, actually very normal. So I lead a grief group here called Grief Share. And there are some things that we talk about that may be helpful for you as you're kind of working your way through these feelings during the pandemic. One of the things that you might be familiar with are something called the 5 stages of grief. 5 stages of grief are bargaining and denial and anger and depression, and finally acceptance is at the end. And what a lot of people think is those things are sequential and that they have really defined borders and you go from one stage to the next to the next. But in reality, people who are in grief, they experience those things all at once sometimes. In the space of an hour, you could go through all of the 5 stages. Some days are harder than others. Or you may feel like one day you're super angry and the next you're depressed, and that doesn't go necessarily in order. It's just a lot to work through. So what do you do now that you know that you're in grief? Well, I would say there are some things that you shouldn't be doing, and then some things that you could be doing. Maybe you find the tendency to want to numb your feelings, which is super a normal response to pain. Nobody likes feeling pain. So often they'll try and numb the feelings through substances or shopping or overeating. And what experts have shown is that grief still stays there. Even if you pile on a bunch of other things to quiet it down, eventually you're still going to have to deal with the grief. So what should you do instead? You should learn how to acknowledge and express your grief. Some people do journaling, other people just do soundboarding with a friend. You know, musicians are composing and playing their instruments, and artists are creating art. All of that is a way to a healthy way to actually deal with your grief. But more than anything, I think as your care pastor, one thing I would want to encourage you to do is instead of turning to anything else for managing your feelings, I would encourage you to learn how to just turn to the Lord. Turn away from the things that may not be healthy and turn to Him. And what does that look like? That would look like chatting, soundboarding with Him, doing the big old ugly cry with Him. Take Him on a hike. Tell Him how you're feeling. Show Him your empty calendar and say, what do you want me to do with these days? How do you want me to steward these days? You talk to Him about how you're feeling, and you would ask Him to exchange, like, could you please take my depression and give me back some joy? Could you take my unrest and give me back contentment? Where's the peace, Lord? And you know what the great thing is? He is so infinitely loaded with all of those gifts, he is willing and waiting to pour those out on you. So anyhow, that would just be your care pastor tip of the day. Turn from the things that are unhealthy and learn how to turn towards the Lord in this time. So anyhow, I want to end our time together before you split and you take off again. I just wanted to read you a verse that means a lot to me when we're going through hard times. Philippians 4. And this is verse 6. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He's done. And then you're going to experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can actually understand. His peace will guard your hearts and your minds as you live in Christ Jesus. I just love that. I love that thanksgiving and being grateful and praying and trusting Him kind of cloaks our hearts and minds with peace, which is the best defense against the pain that you're trying to avoid and to heal from in grief. So, hey, thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you found me, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.